Hello and welcome to Broken Entertainment. Today we're going to do a review on Cyberfrog Bloodhoney, and I'm going to compare it to Justice League Annual number 1. Doing that because Cyberfrog Bloodhoney is an installment in an ongoing story, and Justice League Annual 1 is a mainstream comic that's the same kind of concept as an installment. I thought about comparing it to something like a Black Label book like White Knight. Ultimately decided not to because White Knight's complete story, and here we have just the first installment. It's about 80 pages, and Justice League is about half of that. So when you get Cyberfrog, it comes with these two cards here, which are a little extra shiny. I've got them in sleeves to protect them. You got the bookmark, and there's a window cling that's pretty cool. I put that on something already. So we'll start with the covers on these two. Just the cover art initially. This art I think is fantastic. It's super detailed. The colors on it just make every detail pop. You can see the burning ship in the background here, and just as easily you can see the main characters. Nothing blends together, nothing disappears. There's even a moon up top by the all caps logo. The detail on the individual characters is fantastic. It's fantastic throughout the book, but it's fantastic here as well. On the Justice League book, it's okay. When I started getting into comics again, this was one of the first ones I picked up, and I got it because of Hawkgirl. She's one of my favorite characters, and she doesn't have a book. So I saw her on the cover and realized that she's in Justice League and picked it up. The rest of the cover, not super detailed, definitely not compared to this. It's okay though, it's not bad. Superman kind of fades into the background and isn't, he's kind of bright up here, but I'm used to Superman. This kind of reminds me of like a Zack Snyder Superman. Also, I just noticed you can see his cape up here, but it's nowhere else to be found. Batman also really faded. And then you've got Hawkgirl and I can never remember this character's name, the Queen of Atlantis. You've got these two in really strange poses. Like I can't possibly imagine why anyone would ever be in that pose while trying to capture Superman or anyone else, really. And then it's got this big subtitle here, Slaves of the Source Wall. And it just kind of detracts from it for me. Like, I want to look at the art. There's art down here, but I can't really see it, and I'm distracted by it. And you get the little logo here. That's not a big deal. You got DC's logo up at the top, DC Universe logo, of course the price and the issue number. And those are all part of it, I understand. But it's a little distracting as well. Over here, this is a much cleaner cover to me. You have, and of course, over here you have the names of everyone involved. Over here you have Ethan's stamp and Kyle Ritter, who's the guy who did the awesome colors. You've got his name there. Up here you got the all caps logo, Cyberfrog Bloodhoney. It's simple, it's elegant, and it doesn't take away from all this. This does. Everything about it does. The names stand out like a sore thumb instead of being visible yet kind of blending in down here. The DC Universe logo with the big white thing in the middle of it, to me, it just detracts from everything. Cover quality, you have super thick cover, very nice, feels great. This is no thicker than any of the inside pages. If anything, I think it might be a little thinner. First page, oops, skipped one. You have signature here. You have a drawing page, so if you run into Ethan Van Sciver somewhere, you can have him sign it. Again, not sign it. You can have him draw a picture for you, or any other artist, really. And then you have title page, which I think looks great. I know there's a little bit of fluting, which is an issue I've seen other people bring up. It's not a big deal, really. You see it more on this page than any of the other ones. I mean, I do see it, here a little bit going into the first couple of pages, but it really disappears after that. And it sticks out on camera more than it does anywhere else. But the all black page, I've heard some people say he shouldn't do that again because it may have led to that fluting issue, particularly on this page. I like it a lot. It's stark. It really stands out. You get the awesome all caps logo up here in yellow, Cyberfrog Bloodhoney in yellow. Then you got the white names. So, Justice League, you've got all the names right here, kind of detracting from the artwork overall. Here, you've got the two main people here. Everyone else on the title page, big and bold, easy to read. Dedication page, of course. So then you go into, you go into part one, and this is where you can kind of see this fluting a little bit more, and the first page of the story. Justice League, by comparison, this ad, I don't have a clue what that's about. I really don't. I'm not an Adult Swim person, so maybe that's why. But this ad, just ugly. Don't like it. I get it, they gotta pay bills, but wow. And then you go right into the first page, which is where you're gonna see a big difference between the two in terms of art. And I'll use a few other art examples, but I don't want to go too far into that. So, Justice League, you've got the main heroes here, you got everyone else in the background there. They look okay. I particularly like the Flash's facial expression. He's really focused on what he's doing. Batman's expression's okay. Some good shading work, I think, on Superman. And then everyone in the background gets less and less detailed. That's normal. This is not great. The artwork's okay, but the colors, it really, to me, these are too similar. I don't know what they could do. I'm not an expert on it, but if they could have done something to make these two pop a little bit more, make the Titan come out a little bit more, that would have been great. This page is kind of flat in terms of color. This page just hits you with color right away. Big, bright, brilliant sun. You've got the different tones of the word bubbles here. You got the planet down below, the big streak of the ship taking off from orbit. You got so much detail. That there's asteroid field. There's these rings down here that kind of fade out like they should. A little bit of a moon here. There's another planet hiding back here. You get the corona effect of the sun, which is just great. Solar flares, also a neat touch. I don't think they compare. I think this is by far superior in terms of colors, art. Now, you'll see a big difference in detail here in a minute. Let me find. Oh, actually, before I get there, story-wise, both of these start out with a lot of exposition. With Cyberfrog, it's an origin. This first part's an origin story. It's trying to catch up new readers who didn't read the original series in the late 90s. So you kind of have to a little bit, but from a writer perspective, it feels like a prologue. It's one of those things where you're like, you could have probably put this throughout the book, revealed some information over time, maybe even, especially because I know there's at least 4 books. There's Bloodhoney, Wrecked Planet, Red Extermination, I think, is the 3rd one, and the Green Supremacy being the 4th one. A lot of this origin information could have come in that way. I wouldn't have had a problem with that. And I think it would be better writing overall to do that. But you have a mainstream book and it's doing the same thing, and it's not an origin story. It's just exposition about what they're doing, exposition about what the multiverse is doing, exposition about the source wall and why it exists and what it does. Even in the conversation, you have a little bit of exposition. So this is not free from... And Scott Snyder is an experienced writer, for sure. Art-wise, kind of story-wise too, the dialogue tags, I really like these. First of all, they stand out really well, and so does white and black. You know, the standard white and black sticks out pretty well. That's why they pick it. But if you watch this and you read along here, it's this color, this color, this color, and then as it says something important, we get the name in red, and you get the text box changing. And you come down here, and then as emotion comes into play, this is great. It flows so well, not just with the art itself, but with the story, because it draws you in. It's an emotional hook that pulls you in, shows you what the character is feeling without saying it. Perfect. You get the box change, it gets the splatter effect, the text changes, the font changes. Love it. This is all white and black. I mean, everyone's doing it. This is kind of a risk. Some people have said it's harder for them to read. I'd rather someone take a risk and do something cool than this. That's just me, though. So then we get Cyberfrog's origin. And here again, you see this, the villain's name gets a big splash effect. That's great. That's like raw, visceral hatred right there in the art. Showing it, not telling it. So this kind of reminds me of, and this kind of reminds me here of like a movie. Like right at the beginning of a movie, because you still got some credits going by color, letters by Somni. You get the individual boxes split apart by the black background. I think that's really neat. And then it reminds me a lot of the origins of Superman. With Superman, everyone knows the story, right? He comes from Krypton. Krypton explodes. Pod crashes. He gets picked up. In the original story, he gets delivered to an orphanage. But over time, that obviously changed. Here we have the ship. It doesn't crash land, but it comes in from another planet. And you get the same sort of expositionary background. So you see it even in work like Superman. It's difficult, I think, in comics to tell an origin story without some level of exposition. Even though as a writer, I'd rather it be done differently. I don't know how else they could in this particular scene. But again, you could do it. It's just more difficult. This shot. I love this shot. Look at all the detail, all the color as she turns this frog into Cyberfrog. It's just great. And again, the cool dialogue tag. So, one more thing about the art. This art tells the story all on its own. And it's beautiful. It's what art should do in a comic book. You could take all the words out, and yes, you'd lose detail. You'd lose, his elements that you can't get any other way. But the story itself, the core of the story is visual, and you could just take the words out and flip the pages and tell what's going on with no problem. And then just one more time on the art here. The detail is just ridiculous. I don't even know what to say about it. anymore. The reflection here, the reflection even being a little different because of the different angle here. All this line detail right here is just astounding. You don't see that in mainstream comics. You really don't. I mean, Marvel Comics is bad art. When I picked this up, Justice League, I thought, hey, that's pretty good art. And then I saw this book. Changed my mind. Just totally changed my mind. Speaking of which, I've had a really hard time getting into comics. I've tried a couple of times, never had any luck. I always thought comics just weren't really my thing. Then I read this. When I read Justice League, it took me 30 minutes to read this book. I had to read line by line by line by line. It was just so wordy, so much text, so much exposition. You know, and here the art doesn't tell the story. It really doesn't. In some places it does. In the best moments of this book, I will say it does. And one thing I do love about this, Hawkgirl gets some great moments. She really does. And then here's a deviation from the standard text box. I like that. This book, twice as long, 10 minutes. Loved it. Drawn in from the beginning. Super entertained by it. Really enjoyed the story. Loved the art. I can just flip. I get lost sometimes just flipping through pages. Just looking at the detail, looking at the colors, looking at the art itself. I find myself reading it again, even now. So we get a little bit of an introduction here between the characters and a little bit of a feel for them, but there's moments in this book. This is Nemo when he meets her. It's good. I think we miss some detail of them becoming friends, but it's part of a time jump, so I kind of get that. I'm gonna skip a little bit here, too far. Part I wanted to get to. Awesome writing right here. It's not even part of the fighting or anything like that. Just beautiful writing, and the reason for it. These two have known each other for 2 years by now. They've interacted a lot. You can tell without exposition, without introducing us to the old stories, based on the way they interact. And that's great. He comes in, it's like a married couple. He comes in hungry from fighting all day. All he's interested in is the food. She's watching TV. She just kind of haphazardly points him to the chicken. She tells him that Salamandroid stopped by wanting to talk. And then he asks down here if Salamandroid stopped by. And she says, oh my God, you never listen. These two are in, you can tell, I mean, it's not a romantic relationship, of course. You can tell they're good friends. You can tell this isn't even the first time this kind of interaction has happened. It's great. That's the kind of writing that I want to see through the rest of the book, and you don't always see it, unfortunately. But it's still a damn good book. You get, in the same sequence, great interaction between Salamandroid and Cyberfrog that really tells the story of their relationship too. It's really the best writing in the book, I think, hands down. So I don't want to sell Justice League too short here. There's really two great character moments, and they're both for Hawkgirl, which is great, because like I said, I love Hawkgirl. There's her interaction with Starman here. It's decent. Oh, the other thing, no ads. Ads just pull me out of the story so hard every time. I hate it. Here's another one. And again, I get it. Gotta do ads. So, Hawkgirl's about to sacrifice herself here. And John Jones constructs this awesome world for her in her mind of all her favorite places that she's ever lived, so that when she's stuck in the source vault, she can go here and be happy. And that's, I mean, you see the emotion on her face here. That's a beautiful moment, just like we had in here. I mean, not just like, not the same moment, but really good writing, really good moment. I wish this kind of writing was through the rest of the book, but it's not. It's a boring story. It does nothing but exposition and set stuff up, and that's it. I can't stand that about this book. More ads. More ads. Oh, right. Too far. See? Ads. Forget what I'm doing. Just kind of flip through. Oh, here's an ad. Them kissing and showing that they're in a relationship is sandwiched between an ad and an ad. Come on. So a couple things on quality. These pages are thicker than these pages. I really like the way these pages feel. These are magazine thick paper. And they certainly do the job. I mean, you can see how great this art looks. And from my understanding, it was a binding issue. I think maybe cut it down to 40 some odd pages. Get the thicker paper. It just feels better. It looks better. But yeah, I mean, I didn't realize how boring this was until I read this. And to me, that's the problem right now. These are boring. Mainstream comics are either boring or politics. And no one wants either one. Comics should draw you in. They should be entertaining. They should be fun. This is a lot of fun. This is a lot of talk. A lot of talk. To set up the next issue, which, spoiler alert, more talk. That really... That's why I have a hard time getting into comics. I buy them. I've got Wonder Woman comics. I've got Justice League comics. And it's just hard to keep buying them because I buy the issue and I read it and I go, oh, yeah, neat. Okay. You know, I'm buying these because buying these is like work. Because of I'm doing it because my son, who's not old enough to read yet, I want him to have something to read that he can really enjoy. And there's a lot of information out there that says comic books help keep boys reading as they get older, as they go into grade school and junior high, because a lot of the books they have to read just don't really appeal to boys. I mean, it's no one's fault. It's just the way they are. I mean, if you think about what you read in junior high and high school, it's like, woohoo, Moby Dick, you know, To Kill a Mockingbird, etc. Those kind of stories appeal more, I think, to women and girls than they do to boys, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with those stories. They're classics for a reason, except for Moby Dick. I have no idea why it's classic, but whatever. So I want him to be able to read these, to be able to have the option, whether he likes it or not, You know, if he doesn't like it, that's fine. But if he is interested in them, I want the option to be there, because I don't know at the rate the comic book industry is going that they're going to be around. And I want him to have access to Batman and Superman and Wonder Woman and Hawkgirl and Green Lantern and whoever that is. And Aquaman. I want him to have access to those characters and to have at least some books from them. And it's really obnoxious to me that I buy them and they're, for the most part, they're boring. Some of them don't even really tell much of a story, like this one. I'm going to tell the story. I'll be fair. But they're not fun. This is fun. This is great. Draws you in. You want to know what happens to Salamandra. You want to know what happens to Cyberfrog. You want to know what happens to Heather Swain. In here, I'm like, okay, I don't know what happens to Hawkgirl because I really like the character. Wonder Woman basically doesn't do anything. Superman basically doesn't do anything. Batman, I think, flies the plane. You know, Superman got some moments in another comic. It's really good. Batman does too. But it's just not that good. It's just not that entertaining. And that's the problem right now with a lot of our entertainment, is it's either boring or political. This is neither one. Yeah, Bill Clinton's in it, but it takes place in the 90s. It's not a political thing whatsoever. It's just, hey, this is the 90s. Let me show you it's the 90s. The big, bold 1998, 1996 that are in here. Get this if you get the opportunity. Really, you won't regret it. Yes, it's $25 plus shipping. The line art variants are on Indiegogo right now. From my understanding, the ones that are left over from all the different covers will go on sale for $50 later. Get one. You'll enjoy it. You won't regret it. And here's the thing about the price. It comes with these cards, right? Comes with the bookmark. Those are cool. That's not why it's $25. It's $25 because it's art. It's collectible. This is not collectible. What's there to collect about it? This boring cover and some stuff that's also boring that happens in the book, and then one or two great moments for Hawkgirl. It's not collectible. No one's going to care in 20 years. This. Limited runs. Beautiful art. Signed. This is going to be something. It already is. It's already selling on eBay for 3 times as much money, I think, is what it's charged now. This is a good value. This is a good value because it's cheap. But this book said it was going to be better than mainstream comics, and I think it does it. The answer in this case to boring and political is for creators, for writers, for artists to go out and make their own books. Forget this. You don't have to rely on DC. You don't have to rely on Marvel. Books like this are available. They can be supported on Indiegogo. You can get them. You can hold on to them. You can get cool stuff with them. I mean, you don't get this with DC or Marvel. You don't. This is worth it. This means something. It's fun, and it is an answer to the question of what we do with broken entertainment. These aren't fun anymore. They're pandering sometimes. Sometimes they lecture us. No one wants any of that. And that's evidenced in the sales. You can go to Comic Con, just compare the different years and months, and you'll see what I'm talking about. There's whole YouTube channels dedicated to that. I'm not going to get into that. But, you know, if you do want to know more, you can find them. It's not hard. Find any review by Comics Matter. he'll tell you. But the solution isn't pointing out the problem. Pointing out the problem is important so we understand it, but that's only one step. Making our own stuff is the solution. And that doesn't just apply to comics, because, like I said, I'm a writer. I'm writing science fiction and fantasy. I'm hoping to become published. Novels, not comics. But just in this specific case here, you can complain all you want to DC and Marvel. It hasn't done anything in the last 5 years. I don't think that's going to change. Support people making their own stuff, or go out and make your own stuff. Buy what you like. Buy what's fun. If this is fun, go buy it. 100%. But this is it. This is the answer. Not this book specifically. I mean, I think it is. I love it. But people making their own stuff. If you're a creator and you are interested in comics, or you want to do comics, or you're upset because comics suck, here you go. Here's your answer. People making their own stuff, indie comics. At some point, when your voice is ignored and your wallet is ignored and you have no power, you have to just turn away from this and take your own power back. Stop being a consumer. Start buying stuff that works for you. Or start making stuff that works for you. So yeah, couple final thoughts on this. It's not perfect. The writing, book 1 is all exposition. Struggles in a couple of places, I think, with the writing. But the art is great, and the story is interesting and good, and you're immediately confronted with this catastrophe of ridiculous proportions and a villain that, how do you even stop him? You can't tell. You got 1-2 guys against a world of a zillion wasps. That's great. Against the odds. Hard story. It's fun. So, back of the book. I want to talk about that for a minute too. All white, all caps, comics logo. Some people don't like this. I do. It's different. It's stark, and you got the nice big fat logo here. I might have gone with the black, but I don't know. I do like it. Oh, look, another ad. You know, which one would you rather have, an ad or just logo? Now, a wraparound cover variant, I think would have been great, but not a big deal. And like I said, this is a lot of fun. The writing does struggle in a couple of places, especially in book 1, and it ends in a weird spot. But I do like where it ends. It's just kind of an odd place. I'd like to see it next. I'd like to see it with Wrecked Planet. As far as I know, Wrecked Planet's supposed to start off right where this one ends, and I think if you had both books, it wouldn't feel that way. But we'll see when it comes out. I think his writing will get better. Everyone's writing gets better with practice and time, and my understanding is, I know he's spent a lot of years, 26 years, doing art, and you can tell, you know, I mean, I'll just pick a page. Look at that. Speaks for itself. My understanding is he hasn't spent as much time writing. As a writer, I know how that goes. You just keep writing and writing and writing and writing, and it gets better and gets better and gets better and gets better. That'll happen with this. I think it'll be fine. And like I said, it doesn't hurt the story. It keeps it from being as awesome as maybe it could be, but it's very fun, very good read. and I can't wait for the next one. So if you like the video, if you like my review, hit the like button down below, subscribe to the channel, that would be great. And I will put my Twitter link in the description down below, so go ahead and have a look at that. Follow me on Twitter, and I will see you next time. Thanks.